these smaller media apparatuses are getting their funds from, the State Department, and the enemy has just infinite amount of resources, and like my government doesn't have any resources. The Russians certainly don't give up a lot.
Once peace resumes in Syria and things settle down, what interests will you pursue?
Um, well, before Syria, I was very interested in the Iraq War, and before that, the war in Afghanistan. So I probably will follow the next conflict, perhaps what's happening in Ukraine. Palestine is always going to be interesting to me. Any sort of geopolitical conflict zones are going to interest me, as well as sort of the global elite and what they're doing. That's going to be something I'm going to follow.
I guess it was a little bit illusionary of me to say when peace comes to Syria, because that's not likely anytime soon, is it?
Well, I think eventually it will. Eventually, I'm certain of that. It's just the circumstances by which it comes and how long it takes is under question.
I mean, it's up to the other side to stop funding this so-called opposition, surely. For as long as they fund it and find willing jihadists, the trouble's going to continue. Is that more or less right?
I think there's a limit to how far the Syrian part of the insurgency can go. I mean, you can see that they're surrendering in many of the districts, that the most recent one being in Daraya, of the outskirts of Damascus. They said that they've run out of ammunition. They're taking the government amnesties. There is a limit to how far the Syrians will take it, but there's no limit to how far the foreign jihadists are going to take it. And when we consider that Iraq is still being sort of the borders are still not under control, the problem continued on for over a decade for Iraq, and it could happen to Syria too. However, we do have maintained our military. Our military was not liquidated like Iraq's was. So whilst the problem will be the same for us, the potential to contain the problem and to stem the flow is greater for us. The insurrection, the Syrian part of the insurrection, is definitely going to come to an end, but the jihadist problem is going to continue for years.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that Aleppo is not under control. I know there's optimistic comments. Has water been restored to Aleppo?
I believe that water has been restored to some parts, as far as I know. But however, Turkey has recently cut off water supply to Syria by cutting off the Euphrates River. So the dams are actually drying up.
That is really an act of war.
It's a war crime. It's against international law to do such a thing, and it's basically not putting only 22 million Syrians and millions of Iraqis at risk as well. And the
water goes on to Iraq, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that well is under the control of ISIS, and apparently they require to stop the output from the dam for it to continue working, because if the dam reaches a certain point below some water level, it ceases to work, and ISIS has not allowed the workers of the dam to stop the output. So perhaps Turkey and ISIS have some kind of collaboration in this. Certainly, it's a bit strange that this is happening at the same time that the rebels decided to cut off water to Aleppo, and at the same time that Ukraine has cut off water to Crimea. It seems like somebody had the bright idea and is pulling all the strings.
Well, there's the huge water flow in Libya. I mean, this is supposed to be the century of water wars, so it should not be a surprise. But, Turkey is still the main player with Syria. Maybe it will turn around with all the trouble in Ukraine and Russia. I mean, Turkey could put an end to all this trouble in Syria if it just closed its border and stopped supporting the jihadists.
It could certainly put an end. It's the major cause for Syria's problems right now. I think that the Syrian-Turkish border is the most open wound for Syria, and where most of the jihadists are coming from foreign, and the fact that they have like bases on the borders for the insurgents to go back, retreat, rearm, regroup, and then go back into Syria. So we saw that in Kasab recently, where Turkey supported Al-Qaeda's attack there, and with Erdogan's war room leaked conversations that exposed all their plans in Syria and their support of these Al-Qaeda terrorist groups.
Well, all of the NATO countries act with impunity. That seems to be the laws today. But Turkish people are getting increasingly angst-ridden and revolting and protesting about every incident. I mean, it's not a calm country anymore.
It boggles the mind that with all of the scandals that rocked him and all of the protests that were going on in Turkey before the elections, that Erdogan survived and continued to, be the president. And yet again, we see more rallies. I don't think that the Turkish people necessarily support the Syria policy that Erdogan is undertaking. I think that most of them are actually opposed.